What's up everyone, Tsunami Red here, and let me start off by declaring that there is no AI created content on this video, or any of my other videos for that matter. It's going to be mandated one day that we have to declare this, so I'm doing it now to get ahead of the game. This video revolves around this guitar here. You've just seen how I put this all together, so let's talk about why I did all this. As many of you know, Fender recently re-released Tom DeLonge's signature Strat, presumably to commemorate Blink-182's recent reunion, their tour, which resumes next year, and their recent album release. I will admit, I'm not a huge fan, and I can't say I know all that much about their music, but what I do know is Tom's Strat. It's unique and has become iconic over time. The first time I saw his Strat was in a Fender magazine around 2002, 2003. My first impression was, what the hell kind of Strat is this? Is this a Strat tailored for dumbasses? But as time went on, I started to look at this differently, and now I see this as one of those things where the minimal aesthetic is just brilliant. One bridge pickup, one volume knob, a hardtail bridge. You take one look at this guitar and you immediately know what it's all about. It's tailored for one thing only, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. So it's always been a back burner idea of mine to take yet another cheap Strat and mod it into something almost like this. But with the re-release of the real thing from Fender themselves, this prompted me to get started immediately for a very specific reason, and the reason is the difference in cost. This re-release from Fender is going for around $1,800, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I remember when the original was on the market, it was going for around $800. Granted, that was back in the early 2000s, but I'm sure even if you factor in inflation, it still wouldn't be as much as what this reissue is going for now. This guitar here, this cost me not even half, not even a quarter, not even a fifth of what the reissue is going for. I spent a total of just over 300 bucks. And this is what I want to focus on here. The fact that I took a cheap Strat and modded it in a way that gives you the same functionality, same aesthetic, and almost the same look. So overall, you get the same experience of playing a Tom DeLonge Strat at a much more reasonable cost. So let's get right down to it and talk about this guitar itself, the mods I made, and the reasons behind each of them. Starting with the guitar, by now you guys know it's become my thing to take cheap guitars and upgrade them from the inside out. But if you didn't know, hit that subscribe button down below and check out my previous videos. So like last time, I went with a Donner Strat again. My Hendrix one turned out really well, so I decided to try another for this mod. When I saw this pop up on the secondhand market in my favorite candy apple red finish at a dirt cheap price, I couldn't resist. And as you saw, the original pickup configuration is HSS, so pickup routing wouldn't be an issue. Next are things that I do on all my guitars, and that is upgrading the tuners, the string trees, and the strap buttons. As usual, I installed locking tuners, and like before, I got these from Amazon. Now, Tom's guitar has vintage tuners, but I'm not a fan of those at all. I'm not out to replicate his guitar, so in this case, I decided to just go with my preferred type of tuners. The string trees are these type. They're advertised as roller string trees, but there's no rolling mechanism. These are a solid piece. So I'd say the description is misleading, but design-wise, these should be an upgrade from stock string trees, since the bottom part of the string tree is curved, so you would think the string can move more easily. For strap buttons, I use Dunlop's locking system on all my straps and guitars, so it just made sense to install their locking strap buttons on this as well. If you're not familiar with Dunlop's system, it allows for a lock on your guitar strap, and it's easy to attach and detach to other guitars in an instant. Another thing I went extra on this guitar is installing a bone nut. I had an extra one lying around, so I decided to use it, which means yes, I'd have to file the slots, and I've talked a lot about what goes into filing a nut, but when you hold the two nuts and compare them, the bone nut feels so much more solid than the piece of shit plastic one that comes stock with the guitar, so the upgrade is worth it. Now, the most recognizable piece of hardware on Tom's Strat is the pickguard. I assume back in the day, Tom got his pickguards custom made, but today you can easily get these from Amazon. They're affordable and there's plenty of options for different finishes and colors. But most of Tom's Strats that I've seen have white pearloids, so I got the same. The other notable thing on his Strat is a hardtail bridge, which means there's no trem cavity, and that's harder to come across. I've talked about this in my previous video, but very recently, Squier released a line of hardtail Strats, some of which were clearly modeled after Tom's, but none of them come in a color that I like, and since I'm aiming for a cheap alternative, that's why I opted for this donner. As you saw earlier in the video, I adjusted the springs in the trem cavity so the bridge can only tilt one way, and it can only tilt with the whammy bar, so it basically has the same feel as a hardtail bridge, and it's just as solid. The bridge and the springs in the cavity are stock, but I made one upgrade here. Stainless steel saddles. I upgraded to brass on my Hendrix guitar, and the results were great, so I decided to try stainless steel for this. And this knob, oh boy. Believe it or not, this is the most overpriced piece I bought for this guitar. As you all know, all of Tom's Strats have a single flat top chrome knob for the volume, so to follow suit, I also got a metallic knob, but I picked out this red one to go along with the red finish. But man, $8. $8 for one knob! To put in perspective, you can get a full set of Strat knobs, the switch tip, and 3 pickup covers, all for $10. $8 for one knob. Go figure. Lastly, the pickup. Another one of the defining features of Tom's Strat is a Seymour Duncan Invader pickup, in white. The Invader has a particular look with its pull pieces, and boy, the white one really does look cool with the rest of the guitar. Combined with Tom's choices in guitar colors, it really gives his guitar kind of a surfer, skater vibe. Whether he intended this or not, it looks really cool and it's become a defining feature. I did consider getting an Invader, but number one, the white ones are hard to find these days. I'm guessing Tom and Fender bought them all up to manufacture his reissues, and number two, it's not cheap, and the whole purpose of what I'm trying to do is to keep costs down. Luckily, I came across these cheap Invader knockoffs on Amazon. Not only do they have the same pull pieces, they even come in different colors, and to top it all off, they're dirt cheap for the pair. I had no idea if these were any good, but at this price, I just had to take a chance on it. And obviously, I picked the red one to go along with the red finish and the red knob. So how good is this pickup? Well, this leads us to the next thing we'll dive into. But a quick note, when I installed this pickup, I used a brand new pot, 500K audio taper. Keep that in mind for what we'll discuss next. So let's talk all about how this guitar sounds. Now, even though certain things that I've installed play a small part, like the steel saddles and the bone nut, let's face it, almost all of the guitar's tone revolves around this one pickup, in the bridge position, volume and tone on max, and it's a cheap knockoff from Amazon. How good can it be? Well, I'm gonna let you be the judge. The opening track and the background music you're hearing now, all the guitars were recorded with this. So I'm gonna play the track again, but this time I'll be bouncing back and forth between the full mix and the individual tracks. Here's the signal chain. I did add effects and EQ to each instrument when mixing this track, but when you hear each isolated guitar, it will only be the VST preset with very minor tweaks. This way, you can get a more accurate account of this pickup. Here we go. Okay, so I'm sure all of you have your own opinions on what you just heard, and please do set aside for a moment what you think of my playing and just focus on guitar tones. But as to what I think, for the price, this sounds a lot better than I initially guessed it would. Like, way better. But no surprise, there are limitations that became evident the more I played. It does sound like a humbucker, it's not muddy, but it's not all that powerful, and certainly doesn't have the crispy, bright high-end tones or the tight bottom end that you get in a high-quality humbucker. My biggest gripe though is the harmonic response isn't that good. I have a harder time nailing pinch harmonics on this, whereas on my other guitars with hotter pickups, I find it much easier. And yes, I did comparisons with my other guitars off screen to confirm this. I have also heard from another review that this pickup isn't reliable when played through a high gain amp. The reviewer said that it wasn't just noisy, it was squealing. That's bad. But I can't test this out myself because I don't currently own a high gain amp, so just take this as a heads up. And also a reminder that I'll have to test this out someday. One thing I should also mention, which may be somewhat related, is that I had to set the pickup height on this really low. It was the only way that I could get a clean signal that didn't clip. I say it's unusually low because when I look at pictures of other similar guitars, including Tom Strat, the pickups are higher and not this low. Maybe it has to do with the fact that this is a low quality pickup and better ones can be closer to the strings. I'm not sure. But all things considered, I didn't get this pickup with the expectation that it would perform as well as a high-end pickup. Certainly nowhere as good as a real Invader. I got this pickup primarily for the look, so that I could build my own Tom DeLonge-like Strat at a lower cost while still getting a decent tone. In that regard, this pickup nails it on both fronts. Okay, time to draw some conclusions. So if you happen to be on the fence about whether this guitar is for you, there are only two things to consider. First, you gotta like playing Strats. If they're not for you, you can pass. Second is what style of music you'll be playing. If you need versatility, obviously this isn't it. This guitar is as one-dimensional as it gets. It's meant to rock out. No fancy gimmicks, no whammy tricks, just straight up, heavy distorted playing with the bridge pickup only. If this is all you're going to play, this is a great option, or as a very solid backup. If you go the mod route like me though, the one thing I would strongly recommend is choosing a really good pickup. As for this cheap pickup, it does the job. It cannot be beat for the money, but if you want something with more harmonic response, more power, with tighter highs and lows, you should definitely aim higher. I love the look of this to go with the red finish and the red knob, but I'm not gonna lie, I can see myself upgrading this in the future. But the biggest takeaway I have for all of you is if you want a similar Strat, going the mod route is so much cheaper. It might not be 100% the same as Tom's Strat, but you can get it very close. And I hope that what I've shown you here in this video can serve as a guide to achieving this. In fact, you can pull this off for even cheaper if you don't bother with the upgrades that I made, like the locking tuners, the string trees, the nut, the strap buttons, and the saddles. The knob and the pickup you can easily get from another guitar if you don't have any particular preference, or even from the stock pickguard that comes with the Strat that you're going to work with. But make sure the Strat has routing for a humbucker in the bridge though. Otherwise, the only thing you really need is the pickguard, maybe an extra pot, and just put in some time and labor to bring it all together. It's not that hard, and you'll save a ton of money. And for the record, I have tried this Tom DeLonge reissued Strat in store a couple of months ago, so I've played it. I haven't been talking out of my ass this whole time and imagining what I think it might be like. It is a very nice guitar, but definitely not worth $1,800. In all honesty, I'd say it's closer to $1,000, and even that's generous because I don't think it's that far off from a Player Series Strat. And finally, and this is a personal wish of mine, if Fender is willing to re-release Tom's Strat, I would love to see them do the same with Mark's bass. Tom's Strat is a unique take on a traditional Strat, but when you boil it down, it's still very much a Strat. Mark's bass, on the other hand, is almost a hybrid between Fender's two basses. If you're not familiar with the Mark Hoppus bass, it's a jazz bass body with a P bass pickup and a P bass neck, topped off with a custom pickguard. I would love to get a bass like this. I have been seriously thinking of getting a P bass lately, but I love the jazz bass body more than the P. Personally, I would also prefer a jazz bass neck over the P bass neck, but still, Mark's bass is one that I would love to own. And no, you can't just take any old jazz bass and put a P bass pickup in it, because pickup routings on basses are specific. The only way to achieve a bass like this is through a custom mod. So Fender, make it happen. You already talked to Tom, why not talk to Mark? I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. Make it happen. And that's it from me. What do you all think? Would love to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you stuck around for the entire video. By all means, please leave a comment, give this video a thumbs up, share this with whomever, and most of all, click that subscribe button down below to stay on top of all my future videos. This is Tsunami Red, signing off.